This is our 4-part series that OSP partners with different groups around campus. This is the second year of it. Proposal development is our first session. Today we are partnered with RAO and some college and department administrators. Here are your people. You have Shannon and me. We are with OSP. We're training and information coordinators. We help all the way along the life cycle, all these different counterparts under campus and the OVPR. So that's why we're here with you today. Who else wants to say hi?
Hi, my name is Lynn Bruning, and I'm the Proposal and Partnership Development Coordinator for the Research Acceleration Office. And our director, Denida, I believe, is also here.
I'm Lauren Lucio. I'm the pre-award manager for the College of Natural Sciences.
And I'm Cliff Schulenberg. I am the manager of grant facilitation for the College of Ag Sciences.
Okay, so why are we here? And why did we develop these sessions? So we're here to discuss the award life cycle, and an award life cycle is going from proposal development all the way until you get an award and you close it out. And that is where our office, the Office of Sponsored Programs, and where RAO and your departmental and college and unit research administrators are here to help you with this process. We have this award life cycle that we have on here, and we're depicting it for this series as a circle. We're showing it this way because we would like to get everyone to think about, if you do the award life cycle, starting from proposal, going all the way through your award and the closeout, if you do it in a strategic way, if you do it in a compliant way, a collaborative and responsible way, that award that you've received is going to then lend itself to your next award. So by doing things in the right way is what's going to grow your research for you and make it so that you get your next award.
So really quick, we have a poll to understand who's with us today. What is your role at CSU? And then in the chat, if you would like to drop what unit you're repping, who you're with, so like you want to throw in ag or natural science, that'll give us an idea of, yeah, great. Sierra, hell. Oh, so many acronyms. Okay, mostly researcher, faculty, and research administrators. Great partnership today. Thank you all. Lynn, back to you.
All right. So today we're talking about proposal development. And in that context, we want to share with you a little bit about RAO if you're not already familiar with our office. This slide and others contain a lot of text, but don't worry, I will not read all of the text. Kat has shared the slides, and you will have the information after this presentation. This slide is kind of RAO in a nutshell. The Research Acceleration Office is CSU's research development office, providing services to enable and facilitate competitive individual and team research and the overall research excellence of CSU. To this end, we support complex and strategic programs, partnerships, and proposals. Okay, so proposal development involves both research development and research administration support. Research development and research administration are distinct from one another, but they share a lot of overlap. We often talk about them as two sides of the same coin. In research development, we often talk about pre-award because strategic orientation, capacity building, team building, and developing a project story often take place before the specific proposal work begins. But the concrete actions of application, preparation, and submission also require a lot of strategy. And every proposal, funded or not, feeds the pre-award of the next submission, as Shannon mentioned, and as you've seen in the image of the snake eating its tail. It's a never-ending process. So next slide, please. So here is a list of RAO's major functions and activities You see us working in internal programs initiated by the OBPR to catalyze CSU research and build into our research. And you see us supporting complex and transdisciplinary projects that involve partners across campus and partners beyond campus. This arrow is kind of the symbol of the Research Acceleration Office. We love it because it helps us visualize the work that goes into cultivating research, working with teams and developing partnerships that lead through smaller proposals to bigger opportunities. And you can just, one of the things I like about this arrow is that you can just note how much development and how much work and how much nurturing precedes the submission of a specific proposal. This text is pretty small, but again, in your documents, you can look a little more closely. We just kind of have examples of various work that happens along the way in the research development pipeline.
Before we go
yes.
forward, I just wanted to mention that in that development pipeline, you may be working with RAO, you may be working with your departmental, college, or unit person. Sponsored programs doesn't have a ton of space in the development area, but there are going to be times when you find a specific solicitation or something that you would want to work with your OSP counterparts as well in order to get that proposal developed. So I just wanted to mention that this pipeline, you may be touching a lot of different people. You may be with RAO, or you may be with your college or unit representatives.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of different, the work of a lot of different teams is represented here. Thanks for mentioning that, Shannon. This is certainly not an RAO exclusive arrow. It requires all of us to develop proposals and feed into that research development.
Yeah, it's important for you to reach out to your proposal support, whether that's in department or college level, early, because they can help direct you to whatever office or support that is available out there on campus, including RAO. So
thanks, guys.
So with thinking about proposal development today, we're curious how many of you have been a part of a proposal submission. You don't have to be the lead here. You could be part of the team that does it. Whether you're the admin side or the technical side, working on the budget, developing the scope. Yes, no, or maybe. Okay, no maybes. Good to
Well,
know.
that's good. Everyone recognized whether or not they've been in one, but good responses. I mean, we have a lot of yeses here.
Oh, so here's the second part. In the chat, you can go in and maybe put some emojis for our 80% that have done proposal submission. What emojis would you use to describe your experience? There's a lot of emotions. Yeah, it can really range, right? I like dizzy eyes. Sometimes your proposal can go a little askew, but we're also trying to make this an accessible experience for everyone to prepare for good and accurate proposal submission. That's why we're here today.
Yeah,
Mind-blowing.
I like the emojis that we've sent on Cliff, all of them. Yeah, I only put one. We've all ran the gamut, those of us who are in research administration, because we've seen so many different types of proposals. So we've run the gamut. So I just put one type in there. So, but I like some crying, some crazy, some mind-blowing. Danita has the cowboy hat. Don't know what that means.
It's a wild ride.
It's wild.
It's wild. Like what'd you say, the Wild West the other day?
Okay.
And Lauren looks like she died once from one.
A few times. I've also been extremely happy with the outcome. So
great.
But there's also a confused, like, I'm not sure exactly what just happened. So runs the gamut.
And not all of them get awarded, so that can add to the emotional aspect too. Yeah, it's a work of art. This is the development stage we're talking about, right? Lynn, you tell us about this timeline.
Sure. Okay, so in the next section of this presentation, we're going to talk about research development in a kind of general way in a 2 to 4 year section prior to the submission of a specific representative proposal, and then 2 months to 2 years, that time frame before the submission, and then 1 to 2 months before. And we're going to take a look at the strategic and administrative elements of those timeframes. And if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to give us a shout. And this is generalized. Every proposal looks different and runs on a fairly different timeline, except probably when we get closer to that submission button. But this is meant to encourage proactive mindset. The strategic part is going to be more thinking about how to get researchers and research teams in a place where they're ready and looking for specific opportunities. And so along the way, this could be maybe there are internal funding opportunities that could help researchers and research teams get preliminary data. Research Acceleration Office meets with individual researchers to do road mapping to kind of see where they're at in their career and where they're hoping to get to, and what funding opportunities could support them along the way. Other strategic things that could be going on would be partnership, connection, and that could be, creating the ecosystem for a specific project, and that can involve partners from industry, partners across campus, and really just building into the success and the strength to build a foundation for ultimately submitting a specific opportunity. Now, the administration portion of proposal development is not as active in this stage as later stages. There's still things going on. OSP, Shannon or Kat, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so it might not seem like it's proposal development when you're doing these things, but really these are the things that are going to allow you to be able to submit a proposal. So we need to be thinking about those administrative things that should be going on prior to a proposal. And, we need to make sure that if you're on other awards, you're doing your annual and final reports and you're doing them timely, that you're keeping your conflict of interest current. We have policies in place that we can't submit proposals if that's not been submitted. But we just want to make sure that also that if you have an award already, that you're compliantly managing those, that there aren't any issues on there, because that's part of proposal development, is doing all this correctly is then going to help you submit that next award or that next proposal. The other things that we're looking at in the space of 2 to 4 years is that CSU also has systems in place for proposals, so it might be in your interest to get to know those systems prior to doing a proposal. We have a proposal system called Quality Research Proposal Development, and all proposals have to run through that. So it's worthwhile to getting to know it. Also, we have some portal access for our sponsors and role assignments that have to be done in order for you to actually submit a proposal. CSU does the major portal access. So CSU has access to most of the large and a lot of niche and strange small sponsors as well. We have access to those, but sometimes we also then have to help you create a role for yourself in those systems. And then we also do all the necessary registrations that our federal sponsors require of us in order for you to be able to submit a proposal. It is important for you to understand that any extramural funding has to go through our office. Our Office of Sponsored Programs is the only one who has the authority to authorize and submit proposals. NIH, NSF, NASA, DOD, DOE, they don't accept proposals from individuals. They only accept proposals when they come from a major institution. Kat, do you want to talk about our role as AOR?
These external agreements are typically awarded to Colorado State University being the main entity. And then there are representatives tied to it, right? Like the PI, the co-PI. And there are various roles throughout the life cycle where someone has to check a box and say, yep, the university can do this, or authorize us in SAM.gov, keep up our approvals, make sure everything's in compliance. Or when we get the award later on, I know we're talking about proposal development today, but signing off on the award. So we have these specific people at CSU that are authorized organizational representatives that help with certifications, proposal submission, acceptance, and negotiation of awards on behalf of the university. And that's just to protect the university and the teams, the research team, the PIs, to make sure that we are all agreeing to stuff that we can agree to as being part of this entity. If you have any key roles that you think you need in a sponsor system, reach out to our ERA team at OSP. They help with that sometimes. I think that's all the thoughts I have on this.
You can also reach out to your department and college contacts for that, because we can get you in contact with the right people and help with any sort of those systems that you need to get into and get the proper role for.
Yeah, because no sponsor does it the same.
Exactly.
It's all different systems.
Of course. They keep talking about harmonization and it still hasn't quite happened yet. So again, why is it that CSU is the entity that has the ability to accept the award? And it's because CSU is the entity that has all the internal controls that our federal sponsors require in order for us to receive awards. So we have a whole set of certifications, representations, and assurances that we have to go in every single year to a portal and tell our federal sponsors that we have all of these internal controls in place for not only proposal submission, but for the financial management of those awards. So that's the reason why the awards come to CSU and not to the PI or the co-PIs. Any questions about that? I know that sometimes people are like, but it's my science. I'm the one who's doing this. So why is it that I can't sign an award agreement or I can't sign an agreement? Any questions about why that wouldn't work? We'll give the 5-second pause. Okay, Lynn, you're back on.
Righty. So, of course, there are projects that are single PI projects and don't necessarily involve a big team, but often research projects do have some degree of teaming, even if it's within a single lab or a single department. This is a visual representation of a more complex team. And as Cliff pointed out, it looks chaotic because it is chaotic. That's why team science is such an important part of research development. To accomplish certain kinds of work, it is necessary to involve different people from various disciplines, institutions, organizations, and sectors, and for those people to work together efficiently and effectively. And speaking of teams, you all have a wonderful team of teams here at CSU to support your work. And I've been talking about my office RIO, but we work very closely with other teams on campus, especially the ones represented here today.
Yeah. Again, just make sure that when you are planning a proposal, you let your department or college support know as soon as possible. Even if it doesn't end up coming to fruition, we can help you throughout that process, pointing you to different resources on campus, preparing you for sponsor requirements, setting personal deadlines so that we can meet OSP deadlines. So just work with your department contact.
Yeah, and for sponsor programs, again, you're like 4 to 2 years out. That seems silly, but really it's not. I mean, getting to know who it is and the partners that you have in place prior to a submission. Again, Lynn said that we're trying to promote some strategic thinking here, getting things done earlier than what's necessary, because you saw that big graph with all those people for all the partnerships on a really complex proposal. That just doesn't come together in a month. That is something that needs a lot of forethought. And so we're asking for you to be thinking about these things ahead of time. So that's why we put it in this time period.
So let's take a look at a little closer to an actual proposal submission. This time period that we have categorized as 2 years to 2 months before. This is a space leading up to actually targeting maybe a specific opportunity, but we're not quite yet in crunch time of submission. So what is the proposal development scene at this point? Well, during this time period, we, working with you and the other colleagues here, will be helping you identify funding opportunities to go after, or perhaps you are working on a big bet opportunity. There are teams that come together years before a specific, for example, center grant proposals are submitted, to where they need to be developing their concepts and working on their structure, developing partnerships many months before the proposal is written and submitted. This blue, pink iterative drafts and review cycles, that may seem a little cryptic, but there's a spectrum of colors, and RAO often uses these colored team reviews, which basically represent different stages of actual like proposal creation and review. So like a blue team review really just means what we're working with is early concept on paper of the structure of the proposal, the larger concepts, the outline. Is it all making sense? Is the direction we're going making sense? Is it aligning with the specific funding call that we're working with? And then as you move through the colors, you actually move farther along. Pink would be like a little more developed proposal at the 50 to 75% stage, to where you're actually starting to write some narrative and get various supporting documents together. And during this time, depending on the scale and the scope of the project, your college pre-award, RAO, your team will be looking at your proposal and your overall packet for what you're going to submit to see its readiness for moving forward to the next stage. And so that's what we're talking about when we talk about the different color reviews. And it may be strange that senior personnel documents are listed here, but senior personnel documents like your bio sketch and your current and pending support, these are documents that are often needed for especially the federal sponsors. And it's great to have these ready and up to date so that you can be able to apply, but also how you're represented in these documents is a strategic part of going after funding, because the who the funder is funding matters as much as the what. And so these are also strategic documents. And then just a note here on limited submission opportunities. Some of the big and more competitive grants provided by foundations and federal agencies only allow a specific number of proposals to be submitted by any organization. And RAO manages the review and selection process for what teams or what PIs go forward from our institution and to be permitted to submit. And so this is another area to where your department, your college pre-award will note, or you will notice in the funding opportunity that only one or two proposals is able to go forward. And at any time when you recognize that in your funding proposal or in your funding opportunity, please contact the Research Acceleration Office so that we can make sure and post that limited submission opportunity in InfoReady so that you can apply and hopefully get approved to submit that proposal. In this situation, Lauren or Cliff could, help get you in touch with us, or you can reach out to us directly, but we all need to be involved in that process so that all of the boxes are checked.
Definitely. Sorry, Lynn, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you off. I just wanted to
hand it off to you.
Okay. Yeah. Again, looping in your department and college support early, because we can review these solicitations that you're applying to and catch these nuances like a limited submission component early. OSP isn't going to have the time to catch these things early enough to line out all the institutional processes before we can actually submit. And your department support will either send you to the application in the limited submission portal, or reach out to RAO and let them know that we don't see it available for application, and we'll work with them to get you guys through the process.
And my only takeaway is familiarity with your funding announcements or your notice of funding opportunities, very important. So making sure that you're reading those and reading those early. That leads us on limited submission. Sometimes our sponsors have limited submission based upon PI eligibility. You have to be in a certain part of your career in order to submit to a proposal, or potentially you can only submit if you're already on an award. You can't submit another one to a specific proposal. But CSU also has some PI eligibilities that we have to look at, and we do have a guidance document on our on OSP's website. We do have that link here at the bottom of the page, but for the most part, CSU, you have to be a CSU employee. You can't be a temporary employee. We can't have PIs who are from outside of the institution on our proposals. And you have to have the necessary skills and knowledge in order to be a PI or a co-PI. At the end of the day, OSP doesn't have a lot of PI eligibility requirements, but your department or college may. So you need to make sure that you are eligible from your unit to submit a proposal. They might have some other rules or requirements as far as whether or not you can submit to a specific proposal. So that's another reason to do this early and ask the questions.
As we think about identifying funding opportunities, there are three major categories to consider: who is providing the funding, what they fund, and how they fund it. And so as you consider opportunities you want to go after, what is the best fit for the work that you're doing? Is a federal agency or a private foundation? Or a state government based on the scope of your project? Or is your project more, business and product focused? Is it a right fit for industry funding? I won't read everything in these boxes, but there are, different funders fund different kinds of research and work. And so be aware of what type of work are you doing, and who and are the types of funders who support, basic research, or, extension, community outreach, or if you're wanting to train students, or if you really need a piece of equipment for your lab. And then the how, we have this spectrum of least structured to most structured, going from gifts where, it's the funder says, here's the money, go and do good things, which is really fun. All the way through grants, cooperative agreements, and contracts, each growing more structured, where the funder is more and more involved in the agreement and the expected outcome of the work.
Yeah, the who, what, and how will have implications on budget and how you write your proposal. So it's very important to know those elements.
There are various places online to find funding opportunities for your work. The funder is, their website is a great place to look, federal agencies, foundations, etc. I want to highlight SPIN, which is listed here, And the link is provided, but there is a setup process for SPIN. And so I'm going to drop that a link in the chat that provides a how-to for working with SPIN. What is SPIN? It is CSU's funding opportunity database. It's a database where you can enter in keywords, types of specific opportunity titles, opportunity numbers to locate funding for your work. And just as a parenthetical statement, we could be going to a different system in the future, but for now it is SPIN. And if you are not using SPIN, if you're not aware of SPIN, please do follow the link in the chat for setting up a SPIN account so that you can look for opportunities, because it's a great tool. Another link that is provided in this slide here is the InfoReady page that I mentioned before. That's where you can find internal opportunities and where you can find limited submission opportunities that I mentioned a minute ago and apply internally for those things there. You know, it's important as we think about going for a specific opportunity to make sure that the opportunity that we're selecting for our work is aligned, like is the best fit for what we're trying to do. And you know, there's some guidance, basic guidance here. One of the most important things is just to read the funding announcement closely. Funders generally have a very specific idea of what they are looking for, and especially the federal funding agencies are very explicit about who is eligible and the kind of work that they're looking for. Consider the work that you're doing and consider what's in the funding opportunity, and ask the question, is this a good fit? One thing that we encourage you to do is, if you have identified an opportunity, usually there will be a contact or a program officer listed in that funding opportunity. We encourage you to reach out to this program officer to discuss your work, find out if there is alignment there. The method we generally advise is to prepare for contacting the program officer by kind of writing a one-page write-up of your work, by sending an email, and we have an example template here, an email template for reaching out to a program officer here in the slides, and then to request a follow-up call. Different contacts, different program officers may wish to engage in a slightly different way, but this is our general recommendation. Anything else anyone wants to add on that?
No, just knowing that your program officer is your technical person at the sponsor. They're going to be the equivalent of you at the sponsor. So they're going to be the scientific and technical liaison.
We have a resource link at the end of the chat for some proposal writing tips. I'm not going to spend time on this slide right now, but there are a lot of good resources, tips, but also links to other proposal writing guidance and articles and webinars, if you want to follow the link that Kat just dropped in the chat.
Yep, and there's the resources on RAO, and then there's also, we have a separate entity called CSU Rights, which is a really great entity for you to, they hold some workshops, etc. So.
Yeah, CSU Rights is awesome, and RAO and CSU Rights partnered for various workshops and retreats as well. We have our snake eating its tail here, and this is how one proposal leads to another. And we love it when our proposals get funded, but a lot of times they don't. And so how can we learn from prior reviews? Just be aware that the review process varies by funding type, and there are various influences going into what is selected by the funders. And there are different reasons that proposals fail. Sometimes maybe the work has already been done. Maybe they're not convinced by the team. Maybe the scope is off. Sometimes it could be politics at large, but also politics in that funding opportunity, such as the program officer's portfolio. Maybe your work is similar to something they've funded recently. There are all kinds of things that could go into why proposals fail, but always read your reviews closely and take them as wisdom to inform your next proposal. Getting funding, pursuing funding is a tough road because there are many rejections, but keep yourself resilient, knowing that's just part of the process and learning what you can from every single submission.
And just to add, I mean, we do a lot of USDA proposals, and we see a lot funded on that first and second revision more than we do on that first submission. So as it says at the bottom of this, resiliency is critical, and we get to see that in action.
Yeah, your reviews will probably make you feel some type of way at the beginning. I've heard that it's good to revisit the review feedback later after you've had some time for those feelings to simmer, and maybe even let a peer read that reviewer feedback and give their idea of what it means, because these are really personal things that you're submitting, and the feedback can come off harsh, I assume. So don't let it discourage you from trying again, honestly.
And just an aside, right now, federal funding is running at about a 20%-ish success rate. So while it's easy to take something personally, don't, because 20% is a pretty low funding rate.
So this is our time frame, right leading right up to submission. This is where strategy and the administration go hand in hand. If you do happen to be working with RAO, we will be working. I'll be working closely with OSP and your college or department administrators, and often, depending on the proposal, you'll be working with your college administrator or department administrator. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Lauren and Cliff.
Perfect. So I think you can see what the administrative and strategic notes are for this. So let's get into what we're going to be doing during this time period. If we could go to the next slide. So I really think this slide should be like reread the notice of funding opportunity, since we've mentioned it at almost every stage up till here. And please know we're using NOFO. This could be called a RFA. It could be called a program solicitation, request for proposal. They all are basically the different words for whatever that opportunity notice is. But when this read, what we want people to be looking at is specifically like deadlines, what kind of forms you're going to need. Hopefully we've already identified if this is a limited submission. If it comes up this late, we are going to work to expedite that with the RAO office. Eligibility limitations, we need to know you're able to apply. All the documents and formatting requirements, those are really the responsibilities of the college and department administrators, but you should also know them. It works best if you hand us things that are already properly formatted, and all the budgetary limitations that come with this. Communicating with your pre-award support. So every kind of college has different pre-award support, and we have different methods for processing proposals. In the College of Ag, we use a proposal intake form at this stage. And so this information that you're looking through the NOFO will be what you hand off to us on the proposal intake form to get us going. So for us, it's a proposal intake form. For other entities, it's going to be something else but what everyone needs to know is basically the what, who, how, when, where, why of this proposal. And of course, at this point, lead time's the key. We are always trying to get ahead of the game, so to speak. We live on deadlines. The earlier we can start, the better it'll be for everybody involved. At this point, we like to know, who are your collaborators? Are they CSU? Are they outside? Collaborators can either lead to subawards, or they can lead to consultants or professional service contracts. Basically, the more people we are putting on, the more CSU personnel, the more subrecipients, the more collaborators. All of that equals more time. So every person is like another section of time. We need to process stuff in another section of time. You need to process stuff. Going back to the chaotic slide with the big proposal and all those things, like to bring all those in, we need to know who they are, exactly what their functionality is, and get them the right documentation to actually go ahead and submit your proposal. The period of performance is very important for us because we can't really even start budgeting until we have a set start and end date in the quality research system. It budgets based on the period of performance. So once you give us those numbers, if they change, it's essential you notify us that they change as soon as possible. Last minute period of performance changes lead to last minute budget changes, which leads to stress. So it's just a matter of getting this information, and the more final we can have this information at this point, the better. So the required documents, these three documents are the minimum we need for any proposal to be reviewed and approved by sponsored programs in KR. These three documents really should paint a picture that all goes together. So your scope of work should make sense with your budget and your budget justification, right? So you don't want to have a small budget for a really expansive scope of work. You won't be able to get the work done. The budget justification isn't just another list of the budget. It actually is what tells you how the budget links back to the scope of work, how all these items are going to make it so you can complete the scope of work. And we're all looking at that so that we can do the analysis of reasonable, allocable, allowable, that's a new word, allowable and consistent. So when sponsored programs does their review, and when we do our review, this is what we're looking at, is are these costs actually legal per uniform guidance? And the only way to do it is to make sure this scope of work, budget, and budget justification paint the picture that says, yes, this all makes sense. Anything to add on that?
Just that every sponsor is going to have different forms that are going to be necessary in order to submit a proposal, but every proposal has to have at least these three.
Exactly. Like this is like your basic minimum. And then there's all kinds of different budgets, templates, and forms. Speaking of budgets, just real quick, every kind of college department has their own way of getting a budget into quality research. Quality research is, we're putting the budget of record into quality research, but some of us will have you enter that directly in college into quality research. Some of us are going to send you out a spreadsheet to fill out, then we're going to put it in quality research. So it's working with your department or college administrators on those budgets. There's a lot of different ways it happens, but in general, we're all getting to the same thing, which is a scope of work, budget, and budget justification.
All right. Research integrity, safety, and compliance, or otherwise known as risk. CSU has many offices that will support you to navigate the different compliance components that may be involved with your research. Institutional Review Board for human subjects or human subject information. Securing Global Research helps with foreign engagement and export controls. Everybody submits an annual conflict of interest disclosure, so that one's highlighted for that reason. If it turns out that there's an appearance of overlap between an outside relationship or interest and your work at CSU, then you will require a management plan. I think you would work with your department chair and Mark Hubbard in the conflict of interest office. Again, your pre-award support, whether it be in the department or the college, would help point you into the right direction for all of these needs.
And I think it goes without saying that if you have any compliance that needs to be addressed in your proposal, again, start early, because all of these add a layer of complexity to your proposal submission.
Yeah, and even though we submit an annual conflict of interest disclosure, if you end up having something that needs to be updated, we're going to have to update it at that time. We don't want to wait until your annual time comes along, just to be sure that we're covering anything that you might be proposing in your work. The common forms, Shannon mentioned earlier that federal sponsors are working towards harmonization. This is one of those steps toward that direction. This is creating consistency in your disclosure requirement for federal research and development grants and cooperative agreements. NSF is the steward of these forms. The forms consist of your biosketch and your current and pending other support. NSF requires these common forms now. They've been required since October last year for NSF. NASA just began requiring them this month. NIH will begin to require them in May of 2025, and eventually all sponsors should fall in line and require these common forms. And on your current and pending support, they're using this document to verify your committed versus available effort, ensure that you have the capacity to do the work that you're proposing, making sure that you aren't duplicating work that's already being funded. And then they're also watching for foreign government talent recruitment involvement. A lot of sponsors are advising against that. And so if you have something like that, then that's when we would put you in touch with the Conflict of Interest Office or Secure and Global Research, and we would figure out how to manage that. And then Science CV is an electronic system that is used to assemble your biosketch and your current and pending support. Currently, only NSF and NIH use Science CV. NSF is the only one that requires use of Science CV. It pulls your citations from various websites like My Bibliography or ORCID or PubMed. It's an easy way to keep your information in one place and then update it as things change. And other sponsors will soon be using Science CV as the required production of your documents. It also has certification from the individual saying that the information on the documents that you're submitting is true and accurate.
One thing we're doing in the College of Ag is encouraging all new faculty to go in and fill out their science CV even before they start proposing, so they have that step done and something to work off of when they are ready to do a proposal.
And this is also going hand in hand with your ORCID ID, which is your persistent identification. So if you do not have an ORCID ID, I would suggest going and getting that completed, because it's going to be a requirement for NIH when NIH moves to Common Forms in May of next year. And it's also just a good idea. Having that persistent identifier is a really great way of making sure that all of your work stays with you. You might have somebody who has the same name as you, or you might have changed your name because you got married, those kind of situations. And so it's really great. But we are also hearing about some foreign entities that are actually adding people to their publications without you being on their publications. So it's a good way to make sure that your work is being shown to the sponsors in a reliable way.
We're heading down the final lap, but I've had a thought as we finish up all these timeline things from our audience. What is your ideal timeline? Now that you've thought about all these things that have to happen at proposal, and you think about your last proposal or one that you have coming up, how much time would you like ideally to have to put it together? But I know that I like time. I don't like to cram it into a few days if I know about it ahead of time. So I'm just curious, people put in the chat, what is your ideal timeline for putting together a sponsored project, externally funded proposal? While you think about that, we have a resource online on our main guidance page. I put it in the chat earlier. We have these different roles and responsibility matrix for the 5 different broad areas of where we touch, at least in the life cycle. This was developed a few years ago across different campus partners, and there's ones for each section, or there's a main master sheet if you want to go into that main PDF and do a search for who's supposed to be doing my biosketch, or who is responsible for submitting my progress report. or the progress report, I should just say. Things like that. If you are wondering like who is the primary on that, who can I go to for assistance, these are on our website. So here's just a little screen clip from the pre-award one with development and getting that budget prepared, those kind of things. So you can see how it transitions through the different roles and responsibilities pieces to different parties. And we all take lead at different points and we support each other at different points. So I encourage you to go look at that later. See if there's anything that you learned from it. Also on the website, we have a department contacts list. Does anyone in the audience know who your main department contact is? Is it Lauren or Cliff while they're here? Do you want to call them out? Okay, where's that link? If you don't know who your person is, this is the web page. Let me know. Did you find your person? That's one of your questions. Great. Let's look at that. Navigate to that website really quick so you can reach out to them.
My new faculty members. Hi guys.
Okay. Well, we've kind of gone the gamut here. The last of our slides are just resource slides. If it wasn't on the screen already, we have some links to some other things for you. And we have a big section for Science CV. And we are pushing Science CV because all of our sponsors are going to be going to this eventually, and NIH currently is requiring it for submission of your common forms. So your biosketch and your current and pending. But I'm also just want to tout a little bit that we do have our next session for the Award Lifecycle series. That's going to be coming up November 12th. And we're going to be talking about review and submission. So the actual what happens to review and submit your proposal. I know this sounds like a lot for this proposal submission, but honestly, it is a lot. There's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of people who get involved in it. So we want to talk about how to get that done efficiently and as painlessly. I don't want any of those brains exploding anymore, right? We don't want any more crying. We don't want any of those. We want you guys to, this process doesn't have to be that way. So our next one is November 12th. I'll be sending out some stuff on that here soon. We have one of our RAs from the Office of Sponsored Programs who's going to be helping us lead that. So it'll be a great session. So we want to open it up now. Louisa, were you able to find your contact in your department?
Okay, I found Stacy Pollard.
Yeah,
and I
okay.
found-
So you're in Vet Med.
Yes, it seems like yeah, I belong to.
Yep. So Stacy is a great contact, and she'll probably be able to even drill you down even further to who your departmental person is going to be.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
So,
I think a good point is that some colleges have college level contacts, some colleges have department level contacts, and some colleges have both. So reach out to somebody and they'll get you to the right person.
any other, I mean, we went through a lot of information today, and it's also very possible that some of you aren't going to be touching this for, you know, maybe not a year, maybe not a couple of years, but just know that we're hoping that just by seeing some of this information, you'll remember, hey, someone told me something about that, or that you keep the PowerPoint as a resource. I can't promise you that everything will age after a year or two, but there'll be some contacts in there for you to be able to reach out to us and ask us the questions. And the one thing about the OSP staff contact is that, and we'll talk more about this in the next session, but I'll just mention the fact that we have 6 teams that are divided by colleges or units at OSP. So if you don't know who your departmental person is or you're not finding that, you can also reach out to your OSP contact. And on our webpage, we do have how the colleges are sliced and diced. So you can find your OSP contact on those teams. And they're also a great resource for, they know who they work with in the departmental units as well, so it can go that way as well for finding your contact. And again, we have a ton of Science CV resources. I want to make sure that everyone understands that OSP, your departmental, your college people, we have no oversight of this system. We might have a little bit of knowledge because we've helped people in there, but it is its own standalone system that was created by, and it's an NIH subsidiary. So we can help you, but unfortunately, this is an area where you as a PI or a co-PI or a researcher, someone who's going to be on a project and has to create these documents, does have to go in themselves in order to create these documents and learn the system. So
yeah, it also requires that certification. So even if you are able to delegate somebody to help populate things, but you have to be the one to pull the final document because it requires your certification. So
yep, the attestations are due to the NSPM 33, which is the Presidential Memo 33, and it's the attestation that you were filling out these documents to the best of your knowledge, and they're true and correct. So again, they're looking for national security issues. They're looking for whether or not you have the capacity to do this work. They're looking for duplication of work. Looking to see if you are the best fit for that proposal, etc. So they're really making sure and checking these documents. So again, we are encouraging everybody to go into Science CV and get their, if you're going to be submitting proposals in the future or if you're submitting them now. Go in if you have not already.
And you can't screw up the formatting of your
No.
documents using Science CV, where if you use like a template, you might miss that there's only 4 publication allowed underneath an activity and you enter 5. Science CV wouldn't let you do that. So
no, it won't let you do that. It'll put it in the correct order that the sponsors want, and it's easy to update. So once I will say that there's a learning curve. It does take some time in order to get it completed. And again, if you haven't created an ORCID ID yet, I would suggest doing that first and then going into Science CV and getting that done. Oh, Luisa, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you so much. I have a question regarding this is very specific to the NIH proposals. I saw that there is something called ERA Commons that you have to fill out to in order to be proposing a grant, and you have a different role, like if either a student or PI, whatever.
Correct.
Who in the university or who is the person that we should contact, because right now my era is outdated. And I called the people from ERA and they say you have to contact people from your university, and I was like, okay, I don't know who that person is. If you can send me some
Nope.
light.
No, not off topic at all, because Sponsor Programs is the one who would create those roles and give you those roles for CSU. So the contact information for our ERA team, OSP_ERA.
So this is where I found it. I was on our OSP webpage, and I'm in our first lifecycle box, proposal and budget development. And there's a sponsor portal section. So this is for some of our most common sponsors. And specifically, there's an ERA Commons one. So I will drop that for you to go access. Hopefully that helps.
Andy and Chris's, because they're the ones who assign the roles for ERA Commons and for research.gov and grants.gov. So this is our ERA is our electronic research administrative team, and they are the ones who are responsible for helping set up those roles in the sponsor portals where where CSU is responsible for setting those up. I say that way because there are so many portals out there and they are all very different how they are set up, and that's why where Kat showed you where that portal guidance is. Our big ones, NIH, NSF, grants.gov, they're all located on there to give you some information. But our OSP ERA team is also there too. They are the ones that will help you with that role and helping you get that. But look at the portal guidance too. It might also answer your question.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Those are great questions, by the way.
Well, I would
Um,
like to thank Lauren and Cliff for representing our departments and colleges today, and Lynn and Denida for being here for RAO, Research Acceleration Office. Yeah, it was a good collaboration. Lots to do, and we hope we can see you next time at the next one.
Yes, thank you very much. And again, it goes without saying, please contact us if you have any questions.
Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming.